Okay, so we're looking at the Pearson BTEC Level 3 National Extended Diploma in Business. We're looking at Unit 1, Learning Game D3 now, so pricing and output decisions. We're looking at the impact on pricing and output decisions in different market structures. We're also going to be looking at responses by businesses to pricing and output decisions of competitors in different market structures. This will be a short one. We won't be going into too much detail. So again, we're still looking at P6, M4 and D3, specifically P6, but our knowledge can also help us to answer M4 and D3. So a perfect competition, remember perfect competition is where we've got many buyers and sellers, each business is selling homogeneous products, so they're selling similar products. So when it comes to pricing and output decisions, if you increase prices of the goods that you're selling in perfect competition, you're just going to lose customers because those customers are just going to go to a different shop, a different corner shop, a different chicken shop. They're just going to go to a different shop that's selling the exact product for a cheaper price. Okay, so if one shop decides to increase prices, they're going to lose customers, their sales are going to stop, and their competitors will not react as they will gain your lost customers. If the shop decides to decrease prices, that will be a better option under perfect competition. They'll gain all customers. Remember, due to perfect knowledge, customers should know that your business has or is selling cheaper priced goods, so they'll come to your shop. Therefore, sales should increase, and competitors may copy. Okay, they may decide to decrease their prices as well to gain customers back. If they decide to increase output, this won't really make a difference because the market is based on demand and supply, so they can't just increase the amount they sell. They can't just stock up more, I don't know, chocolate bars or drinks or milk. It depends how much people need. If they decide to decrease output, so if they decide to restrict output, not sell as many, I don't know, milk bottles in their shop, for instance, or not as many eggs or fruit or veg, customers will just go to a competitor again, okay? Because again, there's many buyers and sellers. Sellers will just go to a different shop and just buy whatever they need to buy from there. Okay, so moving on. We're now looking at monopolistic competition, and remember, monopolistic competition is similar to perfect competition, but they sell differentiated goods. Okay, slightly different goods or services that they provide. A barbershop is a good example. Now, if these shops decide to increase their prices, they'll lose some customers. Okay, not all customers, but some customers. Why? Because these customers are brand loyal. Okay, they may be loyal customers. Let's take, for instance, your favorite hairdressers that you always go to every 2 weeks or couple of weeks or a month or couple of months, however often you go to the hairdressers. If they all of a sudden increase their prices, are you gonna just decide to go to a different hairdressers or a different salon? You might like that specific person that cuts your hair or does your hair, or you might like that the specific service that they offer you. Okay, so you may not just up and disappear. However, they'll lose some customers. They'll lose some customers due to the increased prices, and sales will decrease. Competitors may not react as much as they will gain your lost customers. Okay, so if you increase prices, another hairdressers might not want to increase prices as well because they'll just gain your customers. Not all of them, but the few, right? The few that do decide to change or switch shops or hairdressers. If the hairdressers or the barbershop or whatever shop under monopolistic competition decides to decrease prices, they'll gain more customers. Okay, sales should increase, and competitors may do the same to gain their customers back. Okay, if a competitor from one hairdresser sees that, hang on, they're providing the same or similar service for a cheaper price. I'm going here on a monthly basis. I could save a lot of money in the future, in the long term. Let me go switch over to there. Let me try at their shop. That's an example of what might happen. Now again, monopolistic competition, you can't just increase output. It depends if people need haircuts, you can't just increase the amount of haircuts you do. But again, you can decrease output. Okay, so you can restrict output. You can restrict the amount of haircuts you offer by closing at a certain time. customers will then just decide to go to a different competitor's shop. All right, if let's say I've got my hairdressers that I go to, and they close at 6 p.m. I finish work at 4:30. That gives me time to maybe quickly go home, uh, get ready, go to the barber shop. If they then close at 4:30 when I finish work, I'm going to have to decide to go to a different hairdressers or barber shop. It's not really an option. Okay, so if businesses decrease output, customers will just go to a competitor. Okay. Now this is one of the main ones we're looking at, because for your assignment you will be looking at, or most likely you should be looking at, oligopolies or monopolies. Okay. So remember, oligopolies is where few firms dominate the market. To put it short, um, if a business under an oligopolistic market structure decides to increase prices, they will lose market share to other competitors. Okay, and this will result in a fall in demand, sales will decrease, and competitors will not copy. Okay, so it doesn't really work in their best interest to increase prices, oligopolies. Okay, but it does work in their interest to decrease prices. If they decrease prices, they'll gain market share. Okay, they'll gain market share, their sales will increase. However, very important part here, however, competitors will copy, and this may start a price war. So this is one of the main features of an oligopoly. If one business, let's say Asda, decides to decrease their prices, they'll gain a lot of customers, they'll gain a lot of market share, they'll gain a lot of sales and a lot of profit. However, competitors will copy. Tesco's and Sainsbury's may copy, and this may start a price war, and prices may start to keep going lower and lower and lower until they're just not even making profit anymore, but they're just competing against each other over sales. If an oligopoly, again, it decides to increase output, again, these things are always determined by demand and supply, so we can't really say, they can't just, if they just increase output, if they decide to sell more goods and services, well, people aren't just going to buy it, right? It's just, you're just increasing output. But if they decide to decrease output, restrict output, again, customers will just go to a competitor. Okay, they'll decide to go to a competitor. So that's pretty much that. We've got monopoly now. So if a monopoly decides to increase prices, this should increase their sales revenue. Or this should increase their profit, because there's no competition. There's no competition. There's no one else that these customers can then go to, or say, we're going to go to this business instead, because a monopoly owns, owns majority of the market share, or owns all of the market share. So that's really that. However, output is reduced. Some people may just say, you know what, this is too expensive, I'm just not going to buy the good or service, I'll try and make do without it, sort of thing. So output is reduced, but they make more on each unit due to the increased price. If a monopoly decides to decrease prices, they're just going to lose revenue, as PED, the price elasticity of demand, is inelastic. There's not again, if there's not much a person can do, or there's not much, it basically wouldn't make sense for monopoly to decrease their prices. Okay, remember in the previous lesson we looked at revenue and how it affects revenue. It makes sense for monopoly to increase prices, because there's not a lot of other substitutes that people can opt to, or there's not a lot of choices, if that makes sense. The monopoly is the sole provider, therefore increasing prices will increase sales revenue, as opposed to decreasing prices. Decreasing prices doesn't make sense for monopoly. Okay. If they decide to increase output, again, it's determined by supply and demand. They can increase output, but people might not demand that much. So that it might not make sense. But if they decide to decrease output, if they decide to restrict output and not sell as much, this will increase demand. Consumers will now be prepared and willing to pay more for the product or service. Okay, and if we think about the current issue with PlayStation 5s, there's not a lot of PlayStation 5s going around right now. There's a supply issue, and PlayStation 5s have been restricted. Therefore, you've probably heard stories of certain people paying an extortionate amount of money, or above the actual retail price, or however much is the standard price for a PlayStation 5. Why? Because there's few in supply, so demand overtakes supply in this instance, and it pushes the price up. Okay, um, so that's pretty much that. And there's a little note there: monopolies hardly face any competition. Okay, so if you're looking at what will competitors do, well, there's not much competitors can do, is there? Because they hardly face any competition. Now your task for today is to now complete task P6. I will go over what is required to meet this criteria and the structure sheet with you now, and I will also go over M4D3 with you. Okay. All right. Thanks for listening.